last chapter of this course, and mostly we'll talk about potential flow. So let us start with this. So far what we have discussed is we have looked into 1D flow. Okay, we have initially started with 1D, then we looked into shock, but we have, for most of the portion covered, we have assumed one dimensional and quite simplified assumptions were used. Okay, so that may be valid for very ideal cases like very small steam tubes and all that, but in a real aerospace application or realistic flow conditions, one dimensional is not a very good assumption. Okay, for the entire flow, for some region, small region you can assume, but for entire flow field, one dimensional is at best it is an approximation. It is not a good assumption. So, but there are some problems, like for example, in the flow across a duct, like what Dharmendra and Neha are working on. So that is, we'll say that is a reasonably good assumption. Okay, but practical cases where mostly this subject is applicable to, let us say, aerospace application, where you see high speed vehicles or bullets. So for this type of issues, 1D is not a good assumption. Okay, and 3D generally is far too complicated to have very simple analytical solutions. Okay, so what we are trying to do here is that we are trying to develop some simple equations. Basically, we'll talk about 2D flow, and one assumption that we'll say is that since the effect of viscosity, okay, so before Prandtl proposed the boundary layer theory, if you look at the history of the subject, you will see that there are two types of people. One was looking at aerodynamics, which were interested in the effects far from the wall, and there are other type of peoples who are doing sort of engineering problems. They are, if you have heard of Darcy's friction factor, so this is called hydraulics. So generally, the fluid mechanics research or application was divided in two parts. Now, what Prandtl did was Prandtl said that the effect of viscosity can be limited to boundary layer. Okay, there is where we see appreciable effect of viscosity. After that, if you are far away from boundary, then assuming non-viscous fluid is reasonably good. That was the crux of Prandtl's theory, and then when you combine those two different approaches, you see that if you assume boundary layer, then those two are reasonably good in their particular application. So, for example, where you are dealing with viscous flow which is near the boundary, then the hydraulic type of approach is good, and far away from boundary, aerodynamic group was right. So we'll in this chapter we'll not talk about friction or heat transfer. We'll focus on flow which is slightly away from the wall, away from the boundary layer basically, and we'll talk about irrotational, inviscid, adiabatic, shock-free motion for a perfect gas. So these are the some general assumptions. Okay, so let us begin with one general theorem which is called Crocos theorem. Okay, so for that we can have a let us say this is a streamline. Okay, so it is just a general figure. It could be straight also, but to make it general, let us say we have a curved streamline where we are talking about two directions. Okay, along the length of streamline, which is L, and perpendicular to the direction of streamline. So this is N and this is L. This along the streamline is L. Okay, here it is written. Now, the basic advantage is, as you know by the definition of streamline, that fluid will not cross the streamline. Streamline is always tangential to the fluid motion. So fluid will not cross. So that's the basis of, let's say sometimes we talk about stream tubes. So there is not an actual tube there, but a stream tube is a tube formed by streamlines. So fluid is flowing within that tube. It is not crossing that stream tube boundary. So similarly for 2D flow, we can assume two streamlines, and we see that fluid is going inside that. So with that, we basically we can actually approximate 1D also. So we can say that we can use 1D results along this streamline direction. Okay, we'll see as we move along, and as we derive the equation, you will be more used to or get familiar with this approach. Okay, so what we'll do is that we'll consider the region between two streamline 1 and 2, and taking the third direction, Z direction, we'll say that it is infinity, or we can also take unit thickness. So I'll see in the next slide. So in the third direction, we say that it is unit thickness. Okay, so instead of area, I will write delta n. Okay, delta n into 1. So for equation of continuity, we say that rho v is constant. So now here instead of a, I will write delta n into the area out of the plane, and that I am taking as unit width. So delta n is into 1. So basically I have rho v into delta n is equal to constant. This is the continuity equation. Then I will talk about momentum equations in L direction and N direction. So for L direction, basically we are talking about force balance. So this is the momentum equation in L direction, and momentum dv is 0. Okay, but another concern is that since if you look at this image, we are taking a general approach where these streamlines are curved. So whenever it is a curve, it will also have some centrifugal force. So that we need to take into account how that force will be balanced. Okay. So now let us talk about energy. So energy equation, basically you are talking about it is a flowing fluid. So we talk about enthalpy. So we say that H plus V square by 2 is equal to H naught, which is your stagnation enthalpy. Okay. Now these equations we have discussed previously for one-dimensional flow, if you remember. If you combine that, we'll have TdS equal to this plus ds naught, where ds is a total derivative, right? So I can basically I want to break this in two partial derivatives, which will be corresponding to different coordinate directions. So I can write ds as del s by del l and del s by del n. Okay, so this equation which we have discussed for 1D flow, I am breaking down into different directions. So ds by dl is equal to this, and this enthalpy will be total enthalpy H naught will be 0 will not vary along the streamlines. And again I can write for this is along the streamline, this is perpendicular to the streamline, del s by del n. This can be written like this. Now if I look at these two equations, so this is what we have got in this slide. So if I combine these two, I can say that T del s by del l is equal to 0. Okay, simply basically what you need to do is you can replace, you can use this in this bracket. You can replace this by minus del p by del l, so it will become 0. Okay, so RHS is 0, so LHS will also be 0. So this is what we are seeing here. So what it means, how it can be interpreted. So in simple terms, I can write that T will not be 0. We are not be talking about absolute temperature. So definitely we are talking about del S by del L is equal to 0. So entropy will not change in L is what? L is the along the streamline. So entropy will not change along the streamline. This is what is coming out from this equation. Similarly, for the normal direction. So this equation we had for the normal direction, and this is what we got for from balancing the centrifugal forces. So if you replace this here, So instead of writing del P by del N, I can write minus of this. Okay. So just substitute it here, and this is what you will get. Okay. So basically it is rho v square, v is here, so v can be taken out as common, and we have del v by del N minus this term del v rho v by r. So rho is getting cancelled from here, so we have v by r plus dh naught by dn. So this tells you basically we are talking about how entropy changes across normal to the streamline. So along the streamline it will not change, but when you talk about normal to the streamline, this is the equation which can be used. Okay. Now, if you recall, vorticity can be written like this, and if I replace in this equation, if I replace this bracket by this zeta, so I can write T del S by del N, T del S by del N is equal to dH naught by dN, which will be there, plus instead of this bracket I will write minus V into zeta. Sorry, minus gets cancelled, so it will be plus V into zeta. So this is called Krokos theorem. Okay, it is a very important result for compressible flow, and basically talks about entropy. Okay, it tells entropy and rotation. So this vorticity term is related to rotation, right? So this Krokos theorems tell that basically when you are trying to look into rotation, you need to look into how much entropy is changing in direction, n is perpendicular direction, and how much stagnation enthalpy is changing in that perpendicular direction. That is what is coming out from Krokos theorem. Okay, so it basically what we saw in the last slide, it relates entropy gradients to vorticity, and we have assumed a frictionless, non-conducting adiabatic. Some general assumptions are there, and what it also tells that if entropy is constant, okay, if you go to the last slide, if entropy is constant means this term will go to 0. If this is 0, then this RHS will also be 0, right? So in that case, where is that? Vorticity must also be 0, assuming that your enthalpy and the stagnation enthalpy is constant. Okay, I should mention it here. And similarly, if vorticity is 0, if zeta is 0, then it is the reverse, that entropy will also be 0. ds by dn will also be 0. Okay, or entropies become constant. So isentropic flows are irrotational and irrotational flows are isentropic. This is what we are seeing from these 2 points, right? But this is true, we have assumed that the flow is steady and inviscid. Okay, and we also neglected body forces, which is a fairly good assumption for most of your aerospace applications. And this is also, I forgot to mention before. So we are also assuming stagnation enthalpy is constant for this. When I am talking about, when I say that vorticity 0 means entropy is constant, it means that I have also assumed stagnation enthalpy H naught to be constant, right? So these are some general takeaway or conclusions from Krokos theorem. Is this clear? Any questions so far? People are connected or not? I don't know. People are here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Am I going too fast or is it okay? It's fine? People are able to follow or not? If you don't tell me, I will not know. Okay, I assume we are going fine. Anyway, if you have any doubts, we can discuss later also. So don't worry for that. Let us go back to Krokos theorem. So, okay, now we are now starting to derive some equations. What we'll be using. So, circulation. I hope you all remember when we talked about basic. It is coming from basic fluid dynamics. Okay, nothing related to no not related to aerodynamics. This is generally this is how this is defined in basic fluid dynamics. Now we will interpret it for our particular case of aerodynamics or gas dynamics. So circulation is defined as if you take a closed circuit and then you integrate v dot dl. Basically, you have to take the velocity vector in direction of L and integrate over a closed surface. So this can also be written as curl of v dot ds, and curl of v is zeta, which is a vorticity taken over a closed surface. That is what circulation is. Now, this is what I mentioned, that vorticity can be written as curl of v. Now, what is curl? So here we am writing that v is basically it can be broken down into three components: vx, vy, and vz. Okay, so this zeta can also be expressed as three components: zeta x, y, and z, and this is what we write. So this is also coming from basic fluid mechanics. Okay, till now we have not making any assumption for particularly for gas dynamics. This is just basic fluid mechanics, how you express velocity and vorticity. Okay, so these are vorticity components. Now, basically, these are the two conditions when we want to have a frictionless or inviscid flow to be isentropic. So if you have an inviscid flow and you want it to be isentropic or entropy to be constant throughout, so either you say that S naught is constant. Okay, let me bring that equation here so it will be more clear. Okay, let us put it here. So if you look at this glucose equation, okay, so far we are following that equation only. So if I say H naught is constant, means this term will go. H naught is constant means dH naught by dN is 0. So what will happen? If this is true, then we are talking about frictionless flow and isentropic. So we are talking basically we are talking about potential flow. So this will be 0 and this becomes 0 automatically, and entropy is constant. Or I will say that vorticity is 0 throughout the flow. So if these two conditions are fulfilled, then this becomes 0 and entropy becomes constant. Fine. So if you assume that S naught is constant, then you need to only worry about this curl, and or I can say that curl has to be 0 for irrotational flows. Okay. So should be rotational. That is what we are mentioning in statement. Fine. Now, when this vorticity is not equal to 0, okay. So what for that condition? So we are assuming that enthalpy is total enthalpy or stagnation enthalpy is constant. Stagnation temperature is constant because this is a perfect gas. So I can write this vorticity as Tv by ds by dn. Okay. Now T I can write in terms of, basically I can break down in terms of stagnation properties, and I can write it like this. So for a irrotational flow, stagnation pressure, okay, we are talking in terms of dP and dN, does not change normal to the streamlines. So dN is, as we have mentioned, that this is normal to the streamline direction. So what we are trying to convey here is that even if there is a shock, okay, P naught will not change along the streamline. P naught will change along the streamline, but not normal to the streamline. Okay, so let me just draw it for you. So let us say this is the L direction, and this is the N direction, what we have seen in previous slide. So what this equation tells you is that if for a irrotational flow where this is 0 means, see, RT will not be 0, we assume that V is not 0, P naught is not 0. Yeah, sorry everyone. I think I got disconnected. Someone was calling me, but someone from you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Okay. I think someone was calling me, and fine. So, what was the last slide? What you saw? Glucose theorem. Have you this? Where we stopped? How 5 minutes back, or anyone can tell me what is the last thing you remember? Have you seen this?
Sir, we are discussing about the stagnation pressure variation along the n direction.
Oh, long back.
Yes.
I think this one.
Sir, nothing is visible on my screen.
Oh, oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Sorry.
No, you haven't share your screen.
Yeah. Is it visible now?
Yes.
How come I lost function? Anyway. So, is this where you stopped? Glucose theorem have you started or not? I think there's
Yes,
no
sir,
second
started.
slide only. This have I discussed this?
Yes, sir. Yes.
This one?
Yes, sir. Next.
This?
Yes, sir. This is also.
Okay. Then
Next. Yes, sir. We are discussing this.
oh, you are missing from there. I I was discussing 4 5 slides without internet. Fine. It is recorded or not? Okay, it is anyway getting recorded. So let us. This slide, I shall start again
Yes, sir.
from here. Okay, fine. Thank you. Sorry about that. So let us go back to. So what we were discussing is that we are interested to know what are the different. Basically, we are trying to interpret what comes out for different scenarios using this Crocos equation. Okay, so this is the general form of Crocos equation. Now we'll try to see what happens when vorticity is not equal to 0. Okay, so when vorticity is not equal to 0, we assume that stagnation enthalpy is constant and temperature is constant. Okay, so for that I can write vorticity in terms of TV ds by dn. This is straight away coming from here. Okay, if you say this term is removed, then I can write this in terms of Tn Tv by and ds by dn. Okay, and since we have already shown that ds is not varying in terms of in direction of L, del S by del L is 0, so I can write in terms of d in terms of total derivative ds by dn. So T by V can be written as this. So basically, I can express this in terms of stagnation, pressure, and temperature. Okay. Now, for irrotational flow, okay, where your vorticity is 0, stagnation pressure will not change normal to the streamlines. Okay. So this, if this is 0, then this will also be 0. And even if there is a shock, okay, I hope I have explained this. So basically what happens is whenever you have a shock, pressure changes, but that change is along the streamline as you move in the direction of flow, not across the direction of flow, not normal to the streamline. That is the general expectation from shock. So that is what we'll try to basically we'll try to derive in next few slides. So this is your Crocos equation again, and we have looked into one condition where this is not 0. Now let us talk about more detail about this curl thing. Okay, so let us say that H naught is constant. So I will remove this term dH naught by dN, and we are left with these two terms only. Now this can be written as curl of V. Okay. Now when I say that my entropy is constant, are you people connected? Just double checking. Fine. You can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, just Dharmendra or whoever is there, Vinay, keep talking. Otherwise, I will not know when I have lost you. Okay, fine. So, we are in this term. So, when I say that entropy is constant, which means that del S by del N is 0, this term will also become 0, RHS, right? So if this is 0, this is a product of two terms, right? So there could be two possibilities. One is that flow is irrotational or curl V is 0, or another possibility is that V is parallel to curl of V. Okay, so let us focus on irrotational flow. So for irrotational flow, basically all this is coming from your potential theory, what we have studied in basic fluid mechanics. That's all. So we'll build upon the fundamentals that we have already learned, and then using some of these basic equations, we'll try to derive equations related to our purpose for compressible flow, gas dynamics. Okay. So when you have irrotational flow, you must be aware that we can express V in terms of gradient of phi, where phi is a scalar quantity. So I can write V as Vx as phi, del phi by del x, Vy by del phi by del y. Okay. Now similarly, I can write because I know what is Vx, Vy, and Vz. I can now write what is curl of V, or what is vorticity. So vorticity can be written as del Vz by del y minus this. So which, if you substitute these values from here, you will have vorticity to be 0. Okay. Now we have basically you're talking about irrotational flow, which is potential flow, and let us also assume that to begin with we are talking considering incompressible flow. So for incompressible flow, continuity equation is this. Okay, this can also be written as, instead of writing V, I can write this phi. So it will become del square phi by del x square and del square phi by del y square plus del square phi by del z square is equal to 0, and this is known as Laplace theorem. Okay, so with the introduction of phi to account for, or to manipulate, or write phi in some different form, what we see is that instead of writing three equations of motion, we are using only one, this Laplace equation, and which is a linear equation. So major advantage is that there are no non-linear terms involved. We will see in a few slides, we will see examples of non-linear, and then you will feel happy that why linear makes your life easy. So I'm just going through some basic solutions for Laplace equation for standard flow configuration. This is again not specific to gas dynamics. This is coming from fundamental fluid mechanics. When we talk about potential flow, uniform flow is uniform flow in x direction. You can write potential function as u infinity or v infinity into x. Similarly, source I can write in this term q by 2 pi log r. Doublet I can write as mu cos theta by r, and potential vortex I can write as, this is circulation by 2 pi into theta. So this is general results from potential theory. Now let us try to, okay, let us look at potential equation for 3D flow. Okay, for inviscid flow, which is what we are assuming and building upon, and let us also assume that it is TD. So by continuity equation, I can write del of grad of this is equal to 0. Now this V I can write in terms of Vx, Vy, and Vz. So if I open up this, expand this, I can write in terms of this, and these are Euler's equation. Okay, so and especially I'm neglecting body forces. So can anyone tell me what is the difference between Euler's equations and Navier-Stokes equation? People are here or not? Fine.
Thanks.
Predicted. Okay. So what is the difference in Euler? This is again, forget about gas dynamics. This is coming from basic fluid mechanics. Fluid mechanics generally we consider Navier-Stokes equation. Okay, when you generally we talk about solving or approximating Navier-Stokes equation. But for potential flow or inviscid flow, we talk about Euler equation. So we have similar terms, but some terms are missing. What are those terms?
Sir, viscous term, the flow
Correct.
due to, yes.
So viscous, if you take Navier-Stokes equation and you remove viscous terms, you will get this equation. So as this is mentioned clearly, this is for inviscid fluid. So viscosity is neglected and viscous terms are removed from Navier-Stokes. Fine. So this is called Euler's equation. It is written Euler, but it is pronounced Euler. Okay, now if we had, let us say, three velocity components x, y, z, and so three velocity components, one pressure, four equations only. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 equations, so it should be solvable, right? But we have another issue that density is not constant. Density is going inside this bracket. So for density, we need one more equation, and that equation will be, we are also assuming it to be isentropic process. Entropy is constant, so I can write P by rho to the power gamma is also constant. So this is one more extra variable required, extra equation required because of this extra variable. So total we have 3, 4, 5 equations, 5 variables that could be solved. And this is the thanks to the linear nature of this equation. Okay. Now we have introduced potential function phi and velocity components. We have already seen that we can write in these terms. Now let us these are the equations in terms of velocity components, right? So let us, what I'm trying to do is I am writing this equation in terms of phi. Sorry, first we'll expand, then we'll go to phi. So let us expand this. Basically, your rho will come out. So we'll take by part. So rho into this plus v into del rho. So this is basically the expansion of this equation. And if you have an isentropic process, okay, this is a little bit tricky. So for isentropic process, let us say we are talking about del rho and del x. But we have basically, these are terms which we have derived here by expanding this equation. So del rho by del x is, I can write in terms of dp by d rho, d rho by dp, and dp and dp can get cancelled, dx. Now d rho and dp can be written as 1 by a square, right? And dp by del x del p by del x can be written as this. Okay, this is coming from continuity equation, but we have studied in previous slides. So this is what I can use to replace this del rho by del x. Okay, and I can write this is coming from here, and I can write del rho by del p by del x as this, and dp by d rho as a square. So that is what I am going to substitute in these equations. So if I do that, this is the Euler equation. This is for density change in x, y, and z direction. Basically, here I had for x direction. Similarly, if I do for all three directions, I can write del rho by del y and del rho by del z in this form. Okay. Now, all this expression for x, y, z, I will substitute in continuity equation. So this is the equation we have. Okay. Now, if I substitute for del rho by del x here, this is what I will obtain. So I'm not going into the exact steps, but you can just substitute this and see whether you are getting the same result or not. Okay. Now let us talk about potential functions. So this is how we have defined potential function, right? And now we are actually, I'm just giving some subscripts. So we have defined phi, and we have said that Vx is del phi by del x. Now let us call that as Px to just be more compact for the notation for long equations. So del phi by del x is phi x, del phi by del y is phi y. Basically, you are differentiating phi with respect to y. So just write a small subscript y. That's all. So this is what we already had. And if you differentiate it again, so it will be del square v by del x square. That will be del phi xx, phi yy, and phi zz. And if you are doing basically differentiating with respect to x and then y, then it will be xy. So these are simple notations how you will denote phi for different steps of differentiation. Okay. Now the above equation can be written in terms of this potential function. So this basically this equation I am trying to write in terms of potential function. So we have written this equation in terms of Vx, Vy, and Vz. So those terms will simply replace from here. That's all. So if you substitute all this, this is what you are going to get. Okay. So you can check. It is just a matter of substitution. There is no nothing complicated here. It is just a tedious task. You have to substitute all those terms, and finally you have to just do rearrangement and cancel common terms. This is what you are going to get. So this is called basic potential equation for compressible flow, and the problem here is that it is nonlinear. Okay. So this is a challenge for us. Nonlinear. So for example, Navier-Stokes is also nonlinear, and analytical solutions are available for very simple or very basic cases. Now we cannot simply do superposition, which will not be valid. So another complicating thing is that A is also not constant. Okay, local speed of sound varies with Mach number and component of velocity. So that further complicates our problem. Okay, so what we can do is we can solve basic potential equation what we have in the last slide, and you have to use this also along with that. So the simplest way is just use CFD, what you people have already done. And we also have some analytical solutions for simplified cases, but not for most general cases. We can also use, there are different approaches here that we'll discuss later in this chapter. So we can talk about hodographic solution using those diagrams what we have discussed, or we can look into similarity solution like that one we have for boundary layer type of derivation. And the most commonly used method is to do CFD. Okay, that's why I asked you first you get some relation, then you have some result, you can visually look into the plots, and then we'll discuss what goes behind that. So that was the idea. Okay, so we also need to talk about linearization. So we have last 10 minutes. Let us stop with this. So okay, one or two slides. I'll just introduce you. So basically, we will in that non-linear equations for a complicated 3D problem. This is not a simple task to take, and it is not worth it because we also have CFD tools available readily. Okay, so what we can do is, and another thing is that in aerospace applications, mostly to objects what we are interested in for this particular subject, they are limited to thin cylinder bodies. Okay, so basically we are interested in wings or aerofoils, these type of objects. So what happens is that these are long objects where one dimension is actually more important. The length is more important. So these bodies we can basically what we'll do is we can we can linearize the potential equation. Okay, so we can basically use uniform field potential flow equations, and then we can introduce a small perturbation. Okay, so for example here, except for this nose, the perturbation velocity will be small everywhere. So if you look at those velocity, so we can okay, so we can visualize your flow field as a combination of free stream velocity. Okay, v infinity is coming from far, ideally it is coming from infinity, and we have perturbation velocities along the different components u, v, w. Okay, along x, y, and z direction. This is generally assumed to be smaller, much smaller as compared with v infinity. Okay, so velocity components are, if the flow is if you're talking about the x direction, it is vx v infinity plus u. U is the perturbation velocity in x direction. Vy, anyway, this v is only in x direction. There is no in velocity in y direction, so that is just the v and w. Okay, so generally we assume that u is much smaller than v infinity. Small v is much. So this is perturbation velocity. So it will be very small as compared to the free stream velocity. That is the basic idea behind this perturbation theory. So we are actually running out of time, so we'll stop for here. And if you have questions, we can discuss, or we can go to your CFD results. So let me just stop recording.